Speakerface Podcast. Welcome to episode number 4. You can trip on things behind you. I'm not old, I'm a classic. Well, I do consistently what you do occasionally, and the illustration of perfection keeps from going. Getting creation is quiet, but full of destruction. Make some noise, you're not high. You're not high class, you're gym class. You don't know how to find a remedy. I'm prehistoric, I'm a fucking mastodon, I'm a masterpiece, I'm a side note, I might be immortal. Well, ask your doctor, I'm qualified. This is episode number 4.
And now a word from our sponsors.
This episode is sponsored by Aliens Built Earth. It's a clothing brand for the conspiracy theorists out there. The ones who just want to have fun. You know, it's not for the ones that are negative or the nihilists. You know, those type of conspiracy theorists, the ones that are just paranoid and they think everything is out to get them and there's some big old plan against them and the earth is going to like implode or explode, you know, or catch on fire or freeze. No. The Aliens Built Earth. It's a clothing brand that you can get. You can get them at thealiencon.com, or you can check them out at Fringe FM at the Rogie Report Show. You know what I'm saying? Aliens Built Earth is on Instagram at aliens_built_earth. So, Aliens Built Earth. They've been here all along. You must believe. You must believe. Thealiencon.com.
And now a word from our sponsors.
Chicken butt sausages, that's for you. A chicken butt sausage could be bought in a zoo. A chicken butt sausage has all kinds of mystery meat ground up together, put in a sausage. It's delicious for breakfast and it makes you feel happy inside. A chicken butt sausages, that's for you.
Hey, fuck your stupid sausage. Speakerface Podcast. Peace, everybody, and welcome to the Speakerface Podcast. My next guest is one of my best friends. I feel like he needs no introduction. You know, it's the homie Gil Rock. You know what I'm saying? He's a member of the Project Blow crew, and you know, he's a staple. You know what I'm saying? He's a staple in the Los Angeles underground scene. You know what I'm saying? The graph scene and the hip hop scene, and you know, just he's a good cat. He's well connected. You know what I'm saying? And in his mind, as well as the people he surrounds himself with. You know what I'm saying? And we've experienced a lot of life together, a lot of roller coasters, and you know, he's just a good cat to know and to have around. And you know, when we always have conversations on the phone and stuff, or in real life. You know, obviously more in real life than on the phone. But on the phone, a funny topic is people on the internet. You know, and me personally, when I see people, you know, you could tell when somebody's really thirsty. You know, they either want their career to grow, or they want attention, or, you know, they want acceptance, which is okay, you know, because, I mean, everybody wants acceptance, right? It's kind of the root of a lot of actions that people do and decisions people make, and and so it's like, it's a weird thing. It's kind of like how people announce like mental health issues on the internet now. They're reaching out. I mean, people need help, and it's just a weird platform to pour out your heart, to strangers that more than likely the stranger doesn't really care. They don't really have any invested interest. So it's a like a thought process of a squirrel. You know what I'm saying? It's 1 second to the next. I just forget. But I think ultimately people are just trying to connect, which is good, with other like-minded people, which is good. I mean, humans just want to coexist. I know we don't have to agree on everything, which is cool. We don't have to be interested in all the same things, which is cool. So humans, they go too far maybe on their quest for acceptance, and when they do it a lot, then it just seems like it's like when you're young, and it becomes a pattern maybe. So anyways, nobody wants to fall into an unhealthy pattern of acceptance, right? Or just stay strong, be happy that you're unique. That's your thing. You're unique. So hold on to that, because nobody else could have that or take it away from you. So stop paying attention to others so much, and pray for strength and gratitude, and your life will be an awesome roller coaster journey of emotions, and just awesome life. You look around right now, I bet you have everything you need, and don't forget how awesome you are. You know what I'm saying? So check it out.
So right now you're listening to the Speakerface Podcast. I got my friend Gail Rock, the amazing rapper and artist and all-around good guy. To those that don't know, can you maybe explain your origins?
Word up. Peace to Speakerface Podcast. Thanks for having me. I guess I started doing, all of this subculture, art, whether it was graffiti, hip hop, back in the early to mid 90s. I think graffiti I started probably even earlier. I mean, I went through all the phases. I think, like most cats from our generation, and skating and, everything you could think of, skating, graffiti, all that stuff, the party crews from where we were from and all that, Whittier and, all that 562 area stuff that we were doing back then, man. But, in high school, I think 91 or something like that, I hooked up with a bunch of mutual friends of ours, and started doing graffiti. Back in the day, BK, original crew, TV, Trouble's Back, and then BK, and then evolving into, our Lifers crew, the Life Seen Differently crew. And through that process, I know you and I had a lot of mutual friends, through that whole circle. And eventually, after freestyling for a couple of years with other graffiti artists like, Clue One from DCV and Pang from LSD, and just like all the mutual homies, Bly, rest in peace, we would always freestyle. And I remember my boy Clue from DCV, he would always kind of really put me up and be like, yo, man, you got a really dope voice. You need to like get in the studio, or, take it more seriously. And like, we would just be doing graffiti. And so that was like my focus. But one time he brought me to Boyk from DCV's house, who is also Drez, DJ Drez. So, I think this is probably 93 at this time, probably 93. But he brought me to Drez's house and was like, Drez was doing his mixtape, playing beats, or mixtapes and playing beats and just doing all his mixes and all that shit. And, he kind of just encouraged me to continue to build with Drez. And then eventually, that happened. But eventually, I hooked up with Syndrome from E Times 2. At the time, I don't think E Times 2 had formally been acknowledged as E Times 2. It was like the Endangered Elements, and they haven't put out a release yet. And I met him through work, actually. And he said the same thing. We were freestyling on a break, and then the next thing I know, he was like, yo, do you know AWOL? And I was like, yeah, through graffiti. And then eventually he was like, yo, AWOL's about to do this mixtape. And by that time I had already put in some dues with the Elements. And, then I ended up hooking up with you. And I think Noise was the first thing we recorded. And, I think at that point, I remember it was a one-sided tape that we did. And so you only put the credits for one side, and you're like, well, I didn't have enough space, so I put EE Crew or something. And then that became like, the thing.
Oh, okay.
Like E Times 2, and it became that whole thing, like we were just like, it just works, like everything else that you kind of know that has that double acronym, like Mass Man, double M's, and Freestyle Fellowship FF, Living Legends. E Times 2 kind of took its own thing,
Right, yeah, SS,
Shapeshifters, right, everything. It all, it all evolved kind of just naturally like that.
Dope. So what was the first official E Times 2 song that you guys like recorded and you were like this? Yeah.
I think, this is after Noise and after, Three-Eyed Cows with you, because at that time, we had the crew, we knew the roll call, but at the time, we really hadn't recorded a bunch of stuff together. We would just always have freestyle sessions together, and like there was always these little factions of the crew, like Regret and Digit, Me, Syndrome, and Virus, and Dust Off, and Origin, and Roach, and like we all just kind of had all these solo cuts or cuts with you on those songs. But when we were like, okay, we need to formally get in the studio and record a project together, I think that was 97 or 98 when we hooked up with Massive.
Dope.
And that was like, CDs. That was our first CD that we put out. And I think the first song that we can officially say that had everybody on it was, what was it called? It was Exceeding Expectations, EE. I think that was it. I'm not sure of the exact title, but that had everybody on it. And yeah, it was like a dope, massive beat with a KRS sample, and it was just I think it was probably our first like crew joint with everybody on it.
That's super dope, man. Yeah, I don't think people realize how dope Massive is, and I don't think people recognize him as he should be, but pretty much anyone from the LA Underground has slid through Massive at one point and, like recorded with him. So that's really dope that he's a part of the E Times 2 story. That's really dope.
Yeah, man. Aside from, working with you on those other cassettes that you did, he was like the other, official producer that we kind of started working with. And yeah, he was definitely a mentor, I think, for me and some of the other crew members. But I was always kind of glued to everything he said. And, but it was all love, man. It was just a dope friendship relationship. And we still keep in contact today. So much love to Massive and his family and, everybody that supported us back then,
Yeah, man. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's it's dope. I remember sitting in there, speaking of E Times 2, sitting there one time with Virus, and Yeah, it's just the vibe when you're hanging out with them, man. I think he liked to hang out with cats like us because we were productive and we weren't just talking. We would go in there and make some shit. When do you think was like the first time that you're like, or like maybe it's a song or album, but when do you think is the first time you're like, this hip hop shit, this is my shit. I want to be a rapper. I love what it's all about. Do you have a time like that?
To be very frank, like not even joking, man. Like just because, I used to rap, back in the day when I was even younger, but I would just like record my raps to myself, and I would hate my voice. And so when I got to the point, like I said, in the early 90s when I was hanging out with Clue, and he was like telling me my voice was dope, it gave me a different perspective and gave me more confidence. And by the time we recorded our first thing with You for Noise, I mean, that got around and people were like talking to me about, like, I was as soon as I got the feedback about our first release, and they were quoting my lyrics, and I just saw how people responded. I was hooked right from the get, and I was already a lifer in the graffiti game. Like I just knew that this subculture was home for me, because my friends were my family, and I just I'm a loyal individual, and so I just knew that this is who I was, this is where I felt comfortable in this space and in hip hop, and hip hop gives everybody a voice, so I felt like that's what it did for me. It immediately gave me a voice that felt good about the way I thought, and and I always felt like anytime I heard a beat, no matter who it was before that, like I was always rapping, no matter who was like I was fanning out to, I was always like thinking like, dude, if I was in the studio, this is how I would approach that beat. So I always had like, I always felt like that. Even after that, there was a period of time where I was just like, I think most MCs do that. Like, I think that's probably not unique, but yeah, I think that's how it was for me. That kind of just kept me on that path,
That's dope. Yeah, I mean, speaking of your voice, I know I put you on the spot so many times where we were just hanging out at somebody's studio, and I'm like, yo, Gil, you got to get on this, because I would hear your voice on something, and you always have something good to say and a unique perspective. So I know so many times I'm like, yo, can you write to this? And maybe just. Yeah, I had to get you down, without a lot of notice. I know you're really good at writing on the spot too, which not a lot of MCs could do. I notice like MCs they're either good at like freestyling or writing, and then everybody's writing process is different. But I always notice that you're kind of well-rounded. You could write something on the spot, or you could marinate on a topic, or you could freestyle. I know so many drunken Cloaks shows, you'll get your freestyle on, and nobody knows except me and you that you're like up there freestyling, and it's always smooth. You know what I'm saying? It's never awkward and shit. So
word, yeah, man. And I think to be honest though, a lot of that came from working, like the adaptability in situations came from working with you specifically, and even with Massive, because like you said, we would just be in all these different scenarios where it's like, even if we were recording and writing on the spot, like I remember like you would always kind of be encouraging whoever we were recording with. Like I always felt like you were very encouraging. Like I'm really critical of my shit, right? So I remember we would record stuff and you'd be like, that was a dope take. And I'd be like, oh, let me do it again. And then you'd be like, man, I don't know. They're both dope takes. And so then I kind of learned to be more content with things. And Massive was the same way. Like Massive would just be like, let's record something. And I'd be like, I don't really have anything written. He would just like, just fucking rap. I would just fucking rap. And you know what I mean? And it just, in that kind of mentality, I just picked up real quick and on that aspect of things, and just being comfortable in my own skin. And I think that translates in a lot of things that I do, it works for me because it helps me kind of break through being the overthinker that I am. And so, overthinker attributes to, like, when you're saying I have more time to write something more conceptual. So, yeah, I just think overall it helps being more well-rounded to just do shit and stop thinking about it,
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's kind of why a lot of times I keep a first take or something, because if I overthink it, for one, it'll probably sound almost the same every time, overthinking kills, right? Like,
yeah.
But I noticed, like, for you specifically, because I've known you for so long, and I noticed that the way you do something is the way you do your whole life. Like, you have a certain quality with your music. You have a certain quality of your lifestyle. You have a quality of the way you carry yourself. Do you think, nowadays that the younger cats care about? I mean, they obviously care about how their people look at them and shit because they're very thirsty. But do you think that the quality has diminished recently?
I think there was definitely a gap of quality because of the accessibility for people to record, and the outlets like platforms like SoundCloud became a birthplace for people to just upload their music and have instant gratification and even acclaim to some degree. That was after our, I think early years where we paid dues. We had to put out tapes because tapes were like the main media before social media. And then, we evolved to CDs on that platform, and we aspired to do vinyl records and all of that. And then, introduction of MySpace and then, other media platforms. And then, so when you got SoundCloud and that became a tool for people, it kind of cut out the need to pay dues and to nurture a craft. And I think people jumped on that. And when people found success, artists, young artists or whatever, it just became a springboard. And for some people that are probably mainstream now, like I think I don't want to mention their names, but I think we know there's a few artists that are probably really successful right now that found that springboard via SoundCloud. And then, I know that, like, and so then, but I think now, with the evolution past SoundCloud and digital, Spotify and iTunes being outlets, I think that independent artists, the younger generation right now, like it's probably a good portion that just rely on the digital, but there's other artists that I think are a little bit more popular in this younger generation, and they're independent artists, and they've developed a respect for the craft, and now they're realizing that, when you do shows, you can't sell digital streams, and I've seen some younger artists now putting out records, and I'm really like happy to see that because it's that it just shows they have a respect for the craft, and that they didn't get sucked into that one way of approaching things. So I think the quality is coming back is what I'm saying. I think that respect for the craft and wanting to be recognized for more than just, having a project on the digital shelf is coming back. And we see tapes coming back and all of that too. So I think that helps us, the old schoolers, the true schoolers that put out products still, Yeah. And so it's coming back, but it definitely had a gap, and there's still plenty of space for all the toys who don't know shit still.
Right. Yeah. Because I think what that took away was, like, it took away the middleman of somebody saying, you know what, that's not that good, because some kid is getting high in his room and he thinks that his shit is, fucking genius, and he uploads, his first song, his first take, so I think it's weird that maybe, that they're learning in front of the population rather than learning, behind closed doors and waiting. Like you said, they're building a skill set, but yet they're doing it in public. I think for cats like us, there's a lot of building a skill set behind closed doors until, it's time to fucking flex. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's like if when I was telling you earlier, like, imagine if when we first started rapping, before we actually, sort of honed our craft or knew how to approach things, like there was just this platform that could, you know what I mean? Like it would have been completely different. Our trajectory would have been different. It could have been better, could have been worse, but
right.
I don't have any regrets about the way that we went about things. It feels very organic and so on. But yeah, man, it's everything comes back, right? So I think that now quality is coming back a little bit in the references that I gave,
Yeah, absolutely, man. I agree. Okay, so this is like a short form thing, so I want to get a couple things in. First thing I want to ask you about is the Cloaks remix album. Can you tell the cats about our upcoming remix album?
Yeah, man. So the album that we dropped this year is a Cloakwork Orange. It's out now on all platforms, and everybody could get it at avalanorecords.com or the Bandcamp page or any of the social media or the music platforms and all that. But we as we were pushing the record earlier this year, we thought we should get a couple remixes in, and Awkward kind of led the way. He's the Cloaks producer. And then we were like, we should probably hit up a couple other heads just to see how other heads would approach it. I think D Styles, who's part of the Cloaks, was like the first person to turn in a remix. And, I think between myself, you, and Awkward, we were just kind of kept kicking that down the road and that idea. And then before you knew it, we already had half the album remix. And then now I think we're going with a Cloak Rework Orange. And so that's the new remix LP, a Cloak Rework Orange, that's currently in progress. We'll have production by Awkward. His brother, Phono One, has a remix on there. D Styles. We just confirmed Meg Abusive and Factor, Chandelier. You got a remix on there, AWOL. AC Alone has a couple remixes on there that are super dope, and I'm glad to have him on some production tip. Mm-hmm. Who else am I forgetting?
I think we're waiting on a Kenny Siegel one that has.
That's right.
On it.
Yeah, Kenny Siegel has a dope remix, so it'll be if we get the Jupiter verse in, it'll be the Cloaks versus the Cleaners, which is super dope and hype. We've been talking about that for a long time. Controller 7 has a super dope remix on there. Calmer, OG Calmer's on there. He just got one in. Man, I hope I'm not forgetting anybody, but I think that's everybody. And so we're just waiting for a few more joints, and we'll sew it up, and then we'll figure out a dope way to release it. But I'm hype on it. I know Awkward and you all are, feeling really good about it. It's super dope, man. It's like, it's crazy how dense it is. Like, I'm listening. I created a playlist, and it's just like, man, I could go for a walk and listen to it and get lost. Like, damn, this is deep.
Yeah, it's a journey, man.
Yeah, for sure. But it's cool to hear our songs with a completely different, just approach. And it's really cool to hear some of our joints like take on a different life and sound really dope, man.
Yeah, I agree. For those that don't know, Awkward produces the Cloaks, and he produced the last 3 records, which are fucking amazing. Some of my favorite shit that I've ever done. But I mean, that being said, these remixes, it gives it a new life. Like, even though, it's, it feels like a fucking journey, dude. It's because I'm so used to the other versions, and when we perform them, and I love the energy, and but yeah, these remixes are like, it's like a new like little Cloak journey, and then Awkward actually did the artwork too for the
that's right.
cover too, so which is really dope. I like his visual art.
Yeah, he's a dope visual artist. The one thing I would say about these remixes is like, I think at least when I think about remixes, it's always tough to hear a remix or like to achieve the same sort of vibe, that you felt when you heard the original song, or even better than the original song. And the one thing that I've noticed about this whole remix project is they didn't go down a notch at all. You know what I mean? They're all fucking on par, as dope, or just carry this different vibe that paints the picture completely differently. And I'm like, damn, this is super dope, just dope in its own regard, but none of it's like, I like the original better. It's because I think a lot of remixes you can be real dismissive of, hearing them.
Yeah, right. Yeah, either the remix blows away the original, or the remix just doesn't hold a candle to that shit.
Right.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I agree, dude. I mean, one thing I try to tell people about the Cloaks and what they eventually get, because overall, the production sounds dark, and our imagery is always kind of teeter-tottering on some fucking questionable dark shit, but yet people that listen to it, they kind of find out that there's actually there's a positive message that it's kind of underlining all of that shit. I think on the surface they think it's just like, some conspiracy theory raps, but then after they really digest it, man, they realize that we're coming from a different angle. It's actually pretty positive, man.
Yeah, man. And you know what? Art imitates life, right? Like,
right.
People can, mask the truth. They can pretend things are hunky dory in life, but man, look at the times that we're in. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not all fucking positive and sugar coated,
Right.
Or is sugar coated, but life is full of dark truths, and I think that I think it just imitates life, man, and it's all open for interpretation. When you look at the imagery and whatnot, and some of that is that's part of it, right? And plus we know tons of dope artists, and their art imitates life, and we tap them to represent the music, and darkness reveals the light, and I think that's
right.
That's the music, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. That totally sums it up, man. Darkness does reveal the light, man. Word up. So before we close this temporarily, I'm gonna get you on a couple more times, but can you tell people about your upcoming solo joint? I kind of told with the conversation with Ab, I kind of told him, I heard the mix of the cut that we did for your album, so I was kind of just leaking it out there, letting people know that shit's about to go down. So can you tell cats about the Gel Rock solo album?
Yeah, man. Thanks. The new album is called Poetry of War. It's produced by DJ Ja Blues, who's produced a bunch of dope shit. He's a really, really dope producer. And the album, was written over the course of the last year. It's probably, even though it's been done for, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 months, it's probably one of the most current projects that I've ever written. Like, I think we did the whole thing. I wrote the whole thing in like 4 months, and it was kind of going through the process of, going through some life changes. And so, it was the first time I ever wrote a project where I wasn't working on multiple albums. And I was going through so much life change that I found a stream of consciousness and just kind of wrote all the way through it. And so it's real current in terms of content. It's dynamic, I think, in terms of like, you know, it covers a lot of ground for, I think there's 12 songs on the album, and it covers a lot of ground from just some regular hip hop shit, you know what I mean? But the title being Poetry of War kind of taps into all of that. Like, it's got battle raps, it's got the inner battles, the life trials, and, you know, everything, the full spectrum when it comes to content, whether it's got the hype tracks, it's got the, you know, the catchy tracks, I think, here and there, and it's got the real content, the real personal stuff that I think people can relate to. And if people pay attention to not just the Cloaks releases, which I think I consciously try to help facilitate, even you and I touching on some topics in some of those records where, you know, it could be a little bit more relationship focused, you know, just so there's more dynamic. I've always done that throughout my solo records. Like, I've always had one or two joints that were real personal. And for me, I think that's a big focus because, you know, hip hop tends to be like so masculine and as men, you know what I mean? It's you know, it's taboo to put your feelings out there and be sensitive or show that card. And for me, this hip hop shit is therapy at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Like, and I've realized that the more that I just put that stuff in a song, it helps me, and then people relate to that. And that's probably the most meaningful feedback and inspiration that I give to people, because, you know, all the regular rap shit could inspire MCs, but, you know, I'm trying to delve into spaces that help refine myself as an individual, as an artist, and in turn help inspire people to think outside the box and be, you know, honest and true to their craft about, you know, how they translate their trials, right? Yeah. So, yeah, Poetry of War, it's going to drop on my birthday, September 21st. I'm a Virgo. DJ Ja Blues is a Virgo. It's coming out in a sort of a multi-layered approach with Abalano Records, Ooh That's Heavy, which is another label, and Audio Recon. And the crazy thing that we uncovered as we were kind of all forming the relationship to put out this project is that all four of us are Virgos. So yeah,
wow,
it's crazy. I mean, yeah, and that came out after the fact. Like, you know, me and Ja Blues knew that, but then when we brought those dudes in to kind of help facilitate the release, we kind of uncovered that as we were talking about dates. So anyways, yeah, you're on the record, Ab's on the record. So we've got the Masked Men represented. Project Blowed is definitely represented. I got Kazar, Stro One, or AKA Monstro, Chesky, Fake 4 Crew is on the record. The homie Esid, Megabusive, Tumex, and Otherwise, and Scatterbrain from Red Lotus Clan is on it. Those last MCs I just mentioned are all Posse Cut. And Danu from the Visionaries, old school homie. So, nice. You know what I mean? It's I'm excited about it, and so that'll be coming next month, and you know, I'm looking forward to that and a Cloak rework Orange, man. So we got some dope material in the chamber, and I'm hyped for everybody to hear it, man.
Super dope. Yeah, I think people, you know, fans of yours definitely appreciate your honesty, you know, especially, you know, you have a hard edge, and you also know how to wear your heart on your sleeve. And, you know, when other cats, especially cats that grew up in the same areas and the same lifestyle, I think when they hear that, they appreciate it, man. They, you know, people always tap into some real honesty, you know.
Yeah, can't fail when you're being real with it. So.
Yeah, exactly. Well, word up, Mr. Gelrock. I love you, brother, and
I'll be talking to you real soon, dude.
Love you too. Much love to Speakerface, and big ups, man. Appreciate you, brother.
Word up. Have a good day, brother.
Peace.
Speakerface Podcast.
And now a word from our sponsors.
From the makers of chicken butt sausages come ass nuggets from the same fucking chicken. How do you figure? Well, you raise a chicken, you put it in a cage, you tap it on the ear twice a day and say, "Hey, little chicken, what in the fuck are you doing in there? How come you don't know how to say human words? How come you only say chicken sounds?" So that's what the fuck it is.
Hey, fuck your stupid sausage.